I think just being back in my normal setting, being with my children, being with my wife, um, and also having the freedom to do and say what I want to do or say.
I think it's little things that most people would take for granted, but we were able to move our youngest son into college. That's something that he had said, "Mom, I knew that I wasn't, you guys weren't going to be here for this." So that to me was just brought me so much joy to be able to do that. Back to school night with Chloe. She didn't think I was going to be there for this back to school night. So yeah, it was great.
I think that you have moments, we we were fortunate, I say, to just walk out and go right back into our life. But then you start sitting there thinking, well, dang, I don't know that I really wanted to walk back into that life. But I mean, and I think I'm being honest for both of us because no one, what I have learned is that the press has still continued to be exactly who they are, whether 2 years ago or 2 years now. So I think that I wasn't ready to come back and start fighting with all that again. I wanted to come back and have a peaceful existence. But I don't know that you can have that and be on television as well. So I think that for us, it's now figuring out what we want to do going forward as a family and independently. And we all have different dreams. We all have different avenues that we want to pursue. And I think that for me right now, I want to be able to support my children in whatever way that I possibly can, while at the same time pursuing the things that I want to do independently, and you as well.
Absolutely.
It was crazy. The whole point of the show for me was I wasn't necessarily jumping for joy to do the show because as you've seen in the clips, there's a lot of chaos and dysfunction. But for me, I knew I went 2 years without a show. I'm doing real estate, podcasting, speaking engagements. But the reason for the show was to put the truth out there. And I was hoping that I could dive deep into the legal matters and where the injustices occurred so that when it aired, maybe it would jog the memory of the president or the administration or individuals who could help. Never in a million years did I think that the show would end with them coming home.
You take the television out of it. We are parents. We are a mother and a father who love their children with everything that we have. And so anytime that your children are not in a good place, I have always said that I'm only as happy as my saddest child. And that is something that I truly, truly live by, believe in. So yes, it is sad when I see them not in a good place, whether individually or collectively or their relationship with each other. So, that is something that as a mother, I just hope can, that they can start to rebuild and they can start to find a common ground. They're adults now, so that it's on them at this point for sure.
I I think for me, I've lived this whole buildup that you're now seeing on television because they were coming to see me just like they were going to see their mother. And everyone processes pain differently. And Savannah is a doer. Savannah doesn't take no for an answer, which is why we're here today. And Savannah holds on to, and I say that if she would save her money the way she saves anger, she would be literally a member of the Trump family. But I think that you have to get to a place to where when you have someone that has been hurt so much and disappointed, you can either say, okay, drop it, which is what I'm accustomed to saying, drop it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. You have to, I was laying there last night and I thought to myself, because I just said to her the other day, drop it. I don't want to hear it anymore. And then I was laying there last night thinking, and something popped up on Instagram, which there are some good things that happen with Instagram. Something popped up and said that the worst thing you can do with someone who is holding on to anger is to minimize it. And I lay there and I thought about that last night, about how I try to minimize anger. And I think that I do that because I just want peace. I want everybody to get along. I don't love, contrary to the world's belief, I do not love this child more than I love her brother, nor do I love Grayson more than I love her. I would lay down and die for any of them today. I would prefer they not kill me with anxiety, let me die naturally. But I just think that it's sad to see your children fight, and especially when it's Chase and Savannah or Grayson. That is heartbreaking. I think that absolutely, there's no way that you can go through it without being granted some resilience. I think that God gives us what He knows. I know that God gives us what He knows that we can stand. And sometimes we don't even know our own strength. I always knew that I was a strong person from being able to do what I have to do. I know what kind of woman I married. And I know what Julie's strength is. And I have seen that strength through, raising children, through being married to me, through, dealing with breast cancer and being a survivor with that. I know what kind of woman I married. But nothing equips you for being snatched away from those that you love and being told when you're going to go eat, when you're going to go to bed, when you're going to get up, how many emails you can send, how many minutes you get to spend on the phone. No one equips you for that, especially coming from the life that we came from, which was a very blessed and privileged life. I think that so many things that we took for granted before going to prison, you go to prison and you're with people that did not come from that privilege, that did not have those same benefits. And you see, you almost feel, or for me, I almost felt a little bit of a shame over living the way that we've lived and having the things that we've had and doing the things that we've done when so many people were just struggling to be able to call their child that day or to be able to.
It's very eye-opening.
It is. It's very humbling.
Yeah, I don't think you can go through something like this and not change. And it would almost be sad if you didn't change.
Amen.
But there's definitely a time where you see things different, where you react differently, because you've been in a situation where you've had to react differently. And I think that's part of the adjustment period back home, because our children, our loved ones expect us to be who we were when we left. And that's not possible. It's just not possible.
But how sad would that be? If we came out and you say, oh my God, they're the same. We read social media comments. We see the articles that are written, people saying, well, Todd doesn't look like he's ever gone to prison. Well, in an other life, I would have been like to the kids or to Julia, I'm like, okay, great. So they wrote a positive article about how I looked. So, that's a good thing. Now I'm like, why are we talking about how I look? Why are we not talking about what I went through? All the people that's still going through this today. How can you expect a 28-year-old girl who she took on the responsibility of her younger brother and her younger sister. She ran the finances for the family. She fought to get her mother and father home every day of her life. She lost her former fiance to a motorcycle accident. And who did she grieve to? Who was there for her to collapse to? I wasn't there for her. So, when you start thinking about resentment and anger, that has to be there. So how can she be the same person? Because the world wants to look at our children and remember that she's this 16-year-old girl that wrecked every car that she ever got into. Or that, she was making bad decisions, oh, I'm going to date this musician, which I said then wasn't a good idea. But that's not who she is anymore. She is a 28-year-old educated young woman who has a brilliant mind, who has an amazing heart. I look at my children and I know that Savannah has a servant's heart. And so when you raise a child that you see that, you have to say, out of all the things that I may have dropped the ball on, I didn't drop the ball with that. So yes, I do believe that, listen, I could have done some things better. I could have been less strict on some things and more strict on others. First of all, there are no encounters with social media because I don't go back and forth with people like that. I used to. That was Todd season one of Chrissy Knows Best. But I don't do that anymore because I've grown enough in my life emotionally to where I can look and say, this person is so angry and so sad and broken on the inside that this is them striking out towards seeing anyone else that's happy. Because, if your life is falling apart and all you see around you is people that are happy, it builds resentment. It just does. So now I don't fight with people like that. I just think, God, they must be really sad. Something must really be going on. And then if they say something about my children, I can go back to episode 1 of season 1 of Chrissy Knows Best.